Hello, welcome to the Reasonably Effective podcast, brought to you by myself, Uncommon Fossil, and by 10 Types. Why don't you say hello?
Yep. Hello, everyone.
And I think this is episode 42, although it's coming out before episode 41, I think, but whatever. Uh, today's episode is on Paradox Rift, which is coming out. The pre-releases have happened, but it doesn't come to live till later this week in about 4 or 5 days. Which I'll have it then. So we want to talk about Paradox Rift before it comes out. So that's why we want to release it right away and not hold on to it. Anything you want to add about that?
I'll say I've actually been playing. So I've tested some Paradox Surf stuff within these past few weeks, and so I got a little bit of a better understanding of the cards. Obviously, some of the stuff is kind of obvious based on like what they do, what they'll synergize with, but then getting
Hmm.
some like hands-on experience is kind of useful as well. So, but Uncommon Fossil, you've not done any of that, right?
Correct. I have not. It's just hearing people discuss it and looking at the cards myself, as well as looking at what the decks are going to be on the live battle passes. That's been released. So why don't we start off with those cards in those decks as a good starting point, because I think there's some good cards anyway, and we're all going to have access to those from day one. So the first one is Roaring Moon EX. This is on, I believe, the basic battle pass, and it's an ancient type, right? Is it? I don't know. Is it a type, by the way, or is it just a name?
It's not like a
Do you
type.
know?
It's like a thing. It's
Is
an attribute, I guess.
so we should
But
just call it an ancient Pokemon or an ancient card.
yeah, sorry, I have a quick question. Are there cards
Yes.
highlighted here for you?
Yes. Are they on your
Why are they
site too?
highlighted? Yeah.
Yeah, so what it is on the website they give each of the decks on the basic and premium battle pass. Then below the deck list, they give the additional cards you get as you go up the battle pass, like tier 16, they tell you, or tier 14. And then the highlighted cards are ones they are suggesting to remove to make space for the new cards.
Oh, have they done that before? Or
They did it before in the text where they said remove the highlighted cards, but the cards weren't actually highlighted.
okay.
So
I
so
guess
this
they're
time
getting better.
they are, and some of it is like there's removing 4 Dark Patch from this deck, right? As we get into it, the Dark Pokemon, it needs a bunch of energy. You got to play Dark Patch. I was like, what's going on with that? But then what they're doing later on is you get
Oh.
some like shiny Dark Patches, so they're like, you got to play those. But besides that, so um, anyway, so all right, so the Roaring Moon EX, very good card. It's one I definitely want to play, and I imagine most people do as well. 230 HP basic, and that extra 10 HP is quite nice, right? 220 is the kind of regular number. Ancient type and 2 attacks here. Frenzied Gouging does for 3 energy, dark, colorless. The deck probably would just play a basic dark energy, I assume. It's an interesting attack. You knock out your opponent's active Pokemon, so one shot anything. If your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out this way, this Pokemon does 200 damage to itself. So, ouch, you got into 30 HP, which is rough. But obviously, there's times you want to do that, right? And particularly if you're doing it to win the game. And obviously, you can one shot a Charizard EX. That's a problem. So even trading 2 prize for 2 prize for something that's at a high HP, you might even take it. And then the second attack, the more normal one for 3 energy, once again, Calamity Storm, 100 HP plus 120 more to get to 220 if there's a stadium in play and you choose to discard. I believe you have the option not to discard the stadium. And of course, if there is no stadium in play, then you can only do the 100. So, two interesting attacks. I'm concerned with Calamity Storm. Obviously, you're not always going to have a stadium in play unless you're really filling your deck with stadiums, then you lose consistency. So if you're only doing 100 half the time, that might not be good enough. What do you think about it?
Um, yeah, I feel like both of the attacks are good. Obviously, they can hit hard. Um, and
Hmm.
so you always have access. I mean, you can always use the first attack. You might die if you use the first attack.
Yes.
You can always use it. The
Hmm.
second attack is generally, I feel like you want to use it when you have the stadium in play and when it does enough damage. Although using
Right.
Frenzy Gouging is not a bad option here. I think it's not. Some people are talking about playing it in like a turbo style Roaring Moon deck, which is
Hmm.
something. But I don't know if it's good. But then it is you can do that though, and then you can get KOs. You can definitely get a KO turn one going second, because you have
Yeah.
obviously Dark Patch, and then Professor Sada's Vitality, which is
Mm-hmm.
let me pull this up. But you accelerate basic energy from your discard pile to two of your ancient Pokemon. So it's kind of like Welder, and then you draw three, and then you so it's kind of like Welder.
Right.
It's only one energy to one Pokemon, so you're still into Dark Patch, but it's certainly very doable. Giving you some fast power.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need like I feel like 5 stadiums is probably enough. The list plays what, 4, but I feel like if you
I
have 5,
think so.
you generally have enough to discard. And then I feel like it's a decent card. Strangely, they play Brute Bonnet, which poisons you. Um, the tool,
Right.
yeah, there's the tool
If it
that
has ancient booster capsule attached, but then which it's let's say it starts with 2 copies. I don't know if it
sorry,
gives you more
which
copies.
card? If Brute Bonnet does,
Yeah, Brute Bonnet has to. I think is that it has to have that tool attached, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, and then but then if it does make you immune to being poisoned, also ancient booster energy capsule, correct?
yeah. So you can put that on like a Roaring Moon, or send up your own Brute Bonnet and then switch it
Right.
out, which is okay. But if you poison yourself, and then your opponent like does 10, then you just die, which is kind of not good. But overall, I think it's a very strong card. But there's two ways to play it. The other way is with Darkrai V Star,
Mm-hmm.
which is like I think it's a classic deck, not a great performing deck historically,
Right.
because it just like doesn't hit super hard, but it's like an
Yep.
energy ramp style deck, and I think Roaring Moon's okay as maybe a one of, but I don't feel like it's necessarily a great addition to that deck.
What they do give in the cards you unlock as you move the battle pass, you get a 2/2 Darkrai V Star. So they're planning on you putting that in as you move up, and I do, that does make the deck better and gives another attacking option, right? Because like Roaring Moon, like you don't want to attack into your opponent's Cramorant, right? With the first attack to knock it out, obviously. And then you also don't want to have to use the second attack if you don't have a stadium play, because then you don't knock out the Cramorant. And so
Yeah,
you
you
need
can use
some
Brute
other
Bonnet to
option.
get the KO because you do
The poison.
the poison. So I don't know. I don't hate Roaring Moon. I feel like I don't know. I don't feel like Darkrai is just that good. Um, its ability is good, but its
Hmm.
attack's only okay, and I don't know if it necessarily has synergy with Roaring Moon. So overall, I think Roaring Moon is a decent card. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't think it's the strongest. And I don't think with Darkrai is the best. I think you want to play it. It's like a Turbo Roaring Moon.
I think that's probably true. I think you probably just want to be attacking with Roaring Moon after Roaring Moon. It's a basic. You have the energy acceleration with your supporter and with your dark patch, and you just got to navigate it that way. Um, and the poison options, kind of, it's a bit odd on the deck, like you said. I don't love that. That's one of the new cards. Um, but look, I'm glad they're giving it to us because it's one of probably what 3 attacking Pokemon in the set that are of top interest to me. I think, and in general interest.
I
So
guess
it's
I think there are some others. Um, I don't know if
yeah,
it. So I did a tier like a top 10, and this wasn't in the top 3. I don't remember if it was the
okay,
top 3 attackers. I don't know. It's a good card though. Um, strangely though, I don't know why they gave you Radiant Greninja. Normally I'd be like, yo, that's cool because Radiant Greninja is good. Um,
yeah,
but you got Radiant Greninja for free, right? I'm pretty sure you do.
it's in one of the starter decks, I do
Yeah, which is
believe,
kind of like silly
right
because
now.
Radiant Greninja isn't even good. I mean, it's okay. It's decent in this deck. It might be the best Radiant, but Radiant Hisuian
Right.
Sneasler makes more sense. This is their chance to give it out, and they're not doing that. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Radiant Greninja gets the energy in the discard for the dark patch, right? That's the
Yeah, I
logic.
guess it's
Yeah.
good, but
And
like,
it's the only engine the deck has, right? Oh no,
no,
they give
they
you
do a
2/2
barrel,
the barrel.
and then they
So okay.
eventually give you a Mew EX and a Squawk ability.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a number of things, but I don't know. Radiant Greninja is good, I suppose, but eh. Um,
But yeah, I mean, but I agree that since they already have given that out in the starter deck, give the Hisuian Sneasler instead. Get people a different card. But that's really the only of the new cards in that deck.
there's one
Well,
more
no,
new
no.
card. Well,
Well,
there's a
Professor
few.
Sada's Vitality you mentioned, right? Which is
Yeah.
super good.
Yeah, there's
Um,
the Ancient Booster Energy Capsule. And then there's
yes.
my number one trainer from the set. So spoilers for those of you who haven't seen that, but I imagine most of you have seen that. That would be Earthen Vessel. Earthen Vessel is a very good item. It is an ancient card, but that doesn't really matter. But it lets you discard a card from your hand to search for 2 basic energy, which is
Yes.
nice. It is another way to get cards in the discard, and obviously it searches out energy as well. So that's a good card.
Yeah, this is a good card for a lot of decks too. Besides, obviously, it's an ancient one, but it's obviously not necessary. Like for was the Professor Sada card, it only accelerates to ancient Pokemon, right? But this will go just gets 2 basic energy of any type, so very useful. Right now, we don't have searching for multiple energies generally, so a very good card. And there's not a lot of discard in the game either, right? Especially an item discard, right? There's Ultra Ball and there's not much else, right? For an
Yeah.
item that
So
can discard.
yeah.
So it'll go in decks for that too, right? Because there are decks that like to discard. So it's a good card for sure. So this was your number one trainer from the set.
Yeah, I think it's very good. It's certainly debatable which is the best, but I think it has to be up there. Um,
Yep.
it's good in Chun Pao, which I think we need to talk about later as well, but not
Hmm.
just yet. Because the next one up, I think we can move on to what's it? Is it Goldengo? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Goldengo. So you want
So
to read that one out?
Goldango EX. Yeah. So this is another good attacker. This one's not an ancient or future Pokemon. I'm glad they gave us one of at least one ancient Pokemon though for free. So Goldango EX, this one's a stage one, 260 HP metal Pokemon. There's not been a lot of metal in the game that's been good, really. I would say, right? We had the Dialga V Star, but that was always very high roll deck, right? When it worked, it was awesome, but it took a lot of work. So having a good metal attacker will be a plus. The attack on it is make it rain for 1 metal energy. You discard any number of basic energy cards from your hand. It does 50 damage for each card you discarded this way. So you don't have to have them in play. You just need to get them into your hand, which is definitely better, right? You get 60 per discarded in play from the Chen Pao, but this is better. It's a lot like the old Blacephalon, right? The single prize, but now it's a stage one. So it's a single energy attack, terrific. Just get up the evolution. So a very nice attacking option. And then coin bonus ability. Once during your turn, you may draw a card. If it's in the active spot, you draw 2 cards. So super nice too. It gives you a little engine too. So you could even just have as an engine. It attacks for 1 metal energy, so it doesn't even have to be the main attacker. Even it doesn't have to be in a metal deck per se. Just have a few metal energies, or even a few metal energies, and you can attack with this, right? Or luminous, right? That's not restricted to rule box, right? Just has to be the only special energy.
Yeah,
So
yeah. You could do a Luminous. You can't discard Luminous with the attack. Um, but
no, but you're
like you
discarding from hand anyway. So if it's attached to it, that's okay.
Yeah, but if you play like 4 Luminous, you can't discard the extras. But yeah, not a
Correct.
huge deal. Um, we'll say I feel like it's called coin bonus for a reason. It's just a bonus. It shouldn't be. You shouldn't rely on that draw completely, as it's not amazing. It's not bad, but it's only okay. I did play against this deck. It is good. I think it's very strong and can pretty much always get the kill. Okay, I'll tell you the deck I was playing.
Okay.
I believe when I was playing with this, I was playing for the most part, a Lost Zone deck with future cards, which I'll talk about when we get to those.
Okay.
And so I obviously had lower HP, so Goldango was very easily able to one-shot everything. In fact,
So right. So
no,
2, 3 energies, and they blow up whatever you had.
yeah.
Yep.
So that meant they didn't have to work very much, but the deck's also very straightforward. I'd say
Hmm.
compared to Chin Pao, where you have just a way to do big damage to the active. We don't have too much
Right.
versatility, although Chimpow does have some. And then you also
But
have,
right. I mean, this should be easier to set up than Chen Pao. It's a stage one. You don't need the stage two Excalibur, right? And
yeah.
you don't have to accelerate them. So I think it will flow better.
Yeah, that being said, well, I mean, the Max Caliber is a stage 2, but you only need to get set up one Max Caliber, and then the rest of your attacker is just like a basic. Versus Goldango, you're
Correct.
setting up a new stage 1 each turn. But
Yes.
yeah, I would say Goldango is a bit more straightforward. And you can also pair it with a new, or with not the new, a relatively new Scizor from Obsidian Flames, which does,
Hmm.
it's kind of like Flapple, where it does more for each Pokemon and play with an ability of your opponents. It does 10 plus 50 more, so for 1 metal, which is
Yeah.
10 more than Flapple, which is decent, and some people are liking that. which gives the deck a bit more depth as it's a single prizer. But overall, I'd say um, the deck's pretty straightforward. Also, I don't know why there's like psychic stuff in this stack. It's kind of strange. Oh, I guess you can
Yeah,
fog crystal for well, I guess yeah, fog
get some
crystal's interesting.
energies.
You can get energy, and you can get the gimme goal, which evolves into Goldango, is psychic as well, which is interesting. Um,
Okay,
I don't know if that's good or not though.
so they play the yeah, it's curly on Ralts and but none of the stage twos.
No,
But
yeah,
maybe I
yeah,
don't know
it
if they.
does. It has Gallade,
Oh,
but
okay,
it's
didn't
above
I?
it. It's going from the
Oh, it's
highest
the
evolution to the
sequences.
lowest, which is a
Okay,
little
so it's got the
strange.
Glade too. Okay, but so you need the psychic to attack with that. Um, anyway, so okay, I mean, and obviously, look, you can, it's flexible, right? Because it only takes one to attack and it discards anything. So I mean, look, again, I'm glad they gave this out because this is one I definitely wanted to get my hands on and want to try out. I played Blacephalon back in the past. Now, was that a double? Was that a two energy attack cost? I'm trying to remember. Or one.
Baby Blacephalon?
Yeah.
That was
Was it
3.
one? It was three.
Well,
Okay,
because you
so
had to
three to the
welder
source.
to it and
You had to
attach.
welder to. That's right. Welder to pay the attack. So which was obviously high rolly there. But there are a lot more tools to get the fire energy. But here it's any type of energy. So I do like I think it could be a good deck. It will be linear. You're right. In what it does, but you can put it into other decks too. It's a stage one, so it's questionable. But with the ability, it kind of helps offset having it as a secondary attacker slash slight draw engine, although Path shuts it off too. So it's vulnerable to that. But I'm looking forward to trying it, I gotta say. And I do think I want to check it into some other decks probably as well. And it opens up the possibility of a card, which I'm pretty sure you're not going to want to discuss, but I'll just mention it here. And that is Tulip, the supporter, which grabs Psychic. Actually, you'd probably play it in this if you're playing with the Curly engine, right? It gets
Um,
you up.
Maybe.
You might. It's certainly a thought, you got to say. For Psychic decks, it's better than Clara, which is a solid card, right? You put
Which also
anytime
will be
Clara.
rotating soon, because it's not that much better than Clara in exclusively
No.
psychic deck.
At first, I thought it wasn't psychic only, in which case it was just better,
Oh yeah,
massively.
no, it's not. It's Nessa for the it's Nessa. So for any combination of psychic Pokemon or basic psychic energies from discarding to your
Right.
hand as a supporter, which is
Hmm.
good. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not great though.
No. But in a deck like this, that if you have a deck with, especially a deck that needs to discard psychic energy, right? And if you have some psychic Pokemon, it could go in this deck, is what I'll say.
Yeah.
It's not insane. Um, and actually, they give you two in the upgraded as it upgrades for, so they're thinking it has some value. Yeah, but again, it's limited to psychic. But look, I think Old Dangles will be fun to try out. It's probably not going to be the BDIF though. And right, I mean, you want to
Uh,
play it at some point,
yeah, I
correct?
think it's a very big hitter. I
Yes.
think if you can either one play the deck very straightforward and just like one shot everything, then be
Hmm.
vulnerable to just things that can like outmaneuver you because they have like single prizes and stuff like that. Or you can play it with a
Right.
bit more versatility. In which case you're gonna have obviously some consistency issues. And I
Yep.
think either way is fine. And I think it's a very good card. It's one of the stronger attackers. I mean, it's the strongest just attacker in the set in terms of just like power. I mean,
It's the
obviously,
biggest. Hmm.
Roaring Moon one shots everything as well, but that's 3 energy,
Right.
so I feel like this is a little easier to set up.
Right. And this is not put damaging itself down to 30, right?
Yeah, that
So,
is true as well.
which is obviously a big negative. So, um, yeah. So this is the biggest attacker, right? In and of itself in the set. So it's nice that they gave it to us. I do think it's probably not as good as Roaring Moon. They gave us the better of the two options in the basic battle pass again, though.
Yeah, no, I think Golding is better than Roaring Moon.
Okay.
Um,
It could be. It
they're
could be.
both decent. I don't think these are necessary. I don't think these are the best cards from the set. I think Goldengo's up there. I don't think Roaring Moon's the best, although I think it's close.
Hmm.
But I think now is time we talk about some breaking
Yes.
news, which
Okay.
is a card was banned and expanded. That card
Yes.
is Scoop Up Net. Well, okay, it was banned in Japan and expanded.
Right.
This
Where
is
I believe they do play expanded tournaments out, whereas like the rest of the world, expanded has been dropped essentially as an official format.
Yeah. So, will this come to the internationally, including America and just the rest of the world? Probably, but I don't know. So ScubaNet, if you don't know, it returns a Pokemon that isn't a V or GX from play into your hand, and you discard the attached cards.
Yes.
It's very good because it works with EXs, both lowercase and capital
Hmm.
EXs. So,
Right. Well,
with
that's why it's unfair, right? That's why it's been banned. It was very good even without that, just scooping up basics with
single
non-rule
prize,
box. But
yeah, I can scoop up
right,
evolutions
but
as
the rule
well.
box is a problem.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd say like Radiance was a problem, although it was
That's
good.
true.
But yeah, I'd say certainly like the EXs, it caused Shaman EX to become banned.
Right.
Arguably, it didn't have to be. I don't know. It was very good. I personally liked Shaman. That seemed fun. I mean, Expands is kind of a stupid format. So you need to, if you don't want it to be a stupid format, you need to ban like 50 cards probably. So I feel like instead you should kind of embrace it being a stupid format. But anyway, so
Look,
Shaman was banned.
yeah. I mean, personally, I understand. I guess it's not a surprise it was banned. Knew it would be a problem with the current EXs. I think, which is why the timing was it. The new EXs didn't come out until Scoop Up Net rotated, so they were aware of that. Why they waited till now? I don't know if there was a particular card in Paradox Rift.
There is, which we'll get to.
Oh yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. So,
It's
um,
obviously Roaring
but
Moon. No,
exactly.
although it would be good with Roaring Moon. Just like
Yes,
pick it
if they
up,
don't
like
knock
heal
it out,
200.
and yes, assuming your opponent doesn't knock it out when it has 30 HP,
Yeah, which is rare, I
you'd love to
suppose.
scoop it up. You have to have 3 energy at that point. So if they didn't knock it out, I think you just attack again and be happy about it. But um,
Yeah, I mean you would die, but
you would. But I mean, personally, I wish they had a route Scoop Up Net, and that's still my position, just to make it to be it can't pick up any rule box Pokemon. When I agree, the Radiants aren't a problem per se, but that's what they've done with the new phrasing, right? And I wish they had done that with Scoop Up Net, because then you could have kept Shaman in expanded, right? I think without being able to scoop it up multiple times in a turn, that's okay. And again, I think being able to scoop up things like Drizziles back in the day and stuff was very good, but it wasn't busted. So I think I wish they would they print a new scoop up net, right, and then just errata this so it becomes what the new one is.
yeah. But anyway, so the card. Do you know what the card is? You said you did. What is the card?
Uh, it is, as I look at it here. I have it on my. I'm trying to remember now. It's the one that makes your opponent. It puts on it puts damage counters, and I can't remember the name of it right now.
Yes, Iron Valiant
So,
EX. So
oh yes, there I have the list, which is a future Pokemon, correct?
yeah.
Right.
So its ability Tachyon Bits, I guess is the name. Is once during your turn when this Pokemon moves to the bench to the active, you may put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, which is very good. This is the deck. This is the main future Pokemon I was playing in the Lost Zone deck,
Hmm.
and the best one. I put a few others in, but I
Okay.
never like used them. So yeah, it does 200 for 3 as well. I can attack next turn, but we'll get to that. But anyway, yeah, you can ping 2 when you swing it in, allowing you to donk your opponent. You just scoop up net a bunch. So you could play 4 Iron Valiant, scoop them up 4 times.
Right.
So that's going to be um, 160 damage. And then you can also use Glaring Zigzagoon. You have
R-
Scoop Up
right.
Cyclone. No, I mean you do have Scoop Up Cyclone, but you have Scoop Up or Super Scoop Up, which is a coin flip. Pretty much you can just win the game turn one. If you played Expanded, um, on PTGO, Donk was a
Mhm.
deck, and it kind of sucked to play against.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
an
I mean,
upgrade to the deck.
right. I mean, obviously, it's not going to donk to that level. Obviously, if Scoop Up Net was in standard with this, it would make things very not fun. I would say because I don't, Donk is an outside thing maybe, but Donk is a regular strategy, and people trying to just grind the ladder with it makes life unfun. Look, it places 2 damage counters. That's nice, and it can go on the active as well or the bench, which is good because right now we can hit the bench, not the active so much, right? So that's a plus. The attack certainly leaves me underwhelmed, though. So perhaps you're going to sell me on why the attack is good,
Well,
and
it's
the future package is good too, right? The future package is better than the ancient package, right? I think
I don't know. The supporter isn't as good. I mean, the supporter is
that's
not
true.
like a
It's got the better
future.
tool, right?
Yeah, the tool's better. So the tool gives free retreat and 20 more damage. So this is buffed up to 220, which is the amount of damage that they're
That you
going to be
need.
hitting with like Rhydon, which is good. So
Yes.
yeah, and then I mean it's just good. So you can pair it with. I'm looking for a list. There's a deck I believe I saw it on Omnipoke. Maybe it was Trusted. Anyway, so it's
Hmm.
you do a bunch of Iron Valiant pings, and then you hit ping with, and then you go in with Medicham V, and you kind of just
Yeah.
win. Like that's you like you can
Well,
so you can win turn one going first if they just start like a Ralt, but then you can also win turn one going second. Well, technically it would be turn two because you like ping and do a bunch, and then go ahead
well, now, okay, go ahead.
and then you Medicham, and then you ping a bunch more again. Obviously you need a lot of switch, but
Right now, the meta cham is only if you go second, right? Can you donk going first, right? Because that's always problematic, right? And,
yeah, I
and
mean
they have to.
you can well it's not easy, and if so
Like,
this
how
is
hard is it? I'm trying to think because
it's
it
not
has
that
to move to the active,
well
right?
just
If
yeah, it
it's
just depends what your
well,
opponent
but
has.
putting one in the starting place doesn't do anything to you. So you can hit. Obviously, you can kind of do two of them. How do you get a third? Like I
You
attach a
just
gen energy
play a bunch
that
of
gets one in the
switch.
active. Oh, that's true. You can get a bunch of switch. Now, if you're going for that, then you're playing donk. Once you toss in a lot of switch cards, you're probably playing a donk deck or a sketchy deck, which I've
Yeah,
been
there's
doing
this.
some of.
I'm looking at Celios. Well, there's a deck. Then you can later set up Laser Blade, which does 200, but buff that up to 220, and that's not a
Mhm.
bad attack by any means. Especially when you add on this attack and bit. So now you're essentially hitting 240, and that's
Yeah.
very respectable. That's why I put it in my Lost Zone list. Because now it's essentially a Pokemon that's hitting 220 or 240 for three.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the V's. I never really liked the V's in the Lost on Neck though, just because I don't know, I
Having
just
the
didn't.
multi-prizers you don't like, but this one's okay in
Yeah,
EX.
I don't know. I like it more. It gives you more versatility because you can like ping as well, and that's a big part of the Lost Zone idea. But then it provides two roles. I also paired it with Iron Jugulus and Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle. I can also. Are you looking at Justin Basil's website? You are, right?
I am. So I'm
Yeah. So Iron
typing. I
Bundle
have
is not there.
iron in. Oh, it's not, but it's a new card.
Yeah. I'm looking at the proxies. It's in like the visual. It's on the list,
Okay,
but it's
I'm on the
not proxy.
translation. So Iron Bundle. Okay, Iron Bundle's not in the proxies. That's a future card again. If it's on your bench, you may switch your opponent's active to the bench. Okay.
And you discard it, which is okay. It's like Fion, but then there's
Yeah.
also
Your opponent chooses.
yeah, and then you have an
Okay.
attack that stops evolutions from attacking. I thought it would be
Hmm.
useful. Ended up not being useful. It depends on the matchup. I think it could be
Right.
useful against Charizard EX, but that's only one deck. And then also, I had Iron Jugulus, which is interesting because it like does a bunch of bench damage. We've talked about it before, and it's not that good, but
Hmm.
it's a decent single prizer. I think I ended up cutting both of those from my list though. So
Okay. Oh yeah,
yeah,
Homecoming Headbutt does 50 to 3 if they have damage counters. Obviously, that's a lot of damage counters on three Pokemon is not easy in general, for one
yeah.
thing. And then is 50 going to get you knockouts or not? Because you can't just keep doing this a lot of turns, probably.
I mean, you can. It's a decent
It's a
amount of
single prizer,
damage.
so I guess you could.
It's a good chunk of damage. So I think it's worth because you look at like Sableye and you look at Rainy Gunington, they're both good attackers, and this falls kind
Yeah.
of somewhere in between them, where it hits an in between amount of damage,
Hmm.
but also is able to go to some targets, but you can't mix it up quite as much as Sableye. But overall, it's pretty good.
Yep.
I think, but I
Mhm.
never used it. I was playing it, and
Yeah.
I think I lost zoned it every game. So
Well, it
yeah.
opens up interesting options, but but you're probably going to have a deck focused on it. I'm not sure how if it's going to work as a tech in a deck, which is what you were doing kind of with Lost Zone.
Yeah, and so I had Hawlucha, but I only had one Hawlucha. So if you played a Hawlucha and then you pinged with Iron Valiant, you could go in there. And you can also set up with Sableye.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Its other attacks also all right. Hitting if you have the tool, the future booster energy capsule, you hit 170 for 3, which is good. But I don't know. So then you have, let's see, what should we talk about Iron Hands next? Do you think that's the
I think we'll stick with the iron theme too, right?
yeah,
And
the futures? Which are all
yeah,
I'll start with Iron.
they
Um,
are okay. Are they all okay? I haven't gone through it, and that okay. It seemed like they were right. And again, and all the future and the ancient are all basic Pokemon. Is that correct?
yes.
Am I? I'm okay. I'm just good. So Iron Hands EX, future Pokemon. It has two attacks. It's lightning type, 230 HP. So we see this creep from 220 up to 230 on more Pokemon too. So
I
that
don't know about that.
on some of them, right? Um, well, on this one, some of them, right? Which we'll see
Like
some
yeah,
play.
well, we were also talking about the Roaring Moon, but
Roaring Moon,
that like
right? Which
damages
we'll see
itself by
play.
200, so I wouldn't really say it's power. Like Zamazenta had 230. Um,
No, it's not power creep, but
you're saying it was a
like the
creep.
well, that like but in the past things like NTV, which had the 230, which did matter, right? It seems like there's a few more that are going to the 230, but I'm not saying it's power creep per se, but it's changing the numbers slightly. You need to knock out some. 220 is good for some things, but then you have the 230s are maybe more of a consideration. I
Maybe,
could
yeah. I mean, you
and
you always want to hit as much as you can. So,
Yes. So anyway, two attacks here. Arm press, lightning, lightning colorless. Does 160, very straight ahead tack. And 160, of course, is disappointing, right? We have 220 on like Miraidon EX for the same energy cost. And then, but then amp you very much with a very punny or jokey name for the attack, which kind of makes you almost think like it's a joke attack, but it's very serious. 4 energy, that's the downside. Lightning in 3 colors does 120, but then if your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by damage from this attack, take one more prize. And I've heard people express anxiety about this card, that this is going to oppress the meta in a similar fashion to the way ADP did. And ADP, you were a big ADP fan, so
ADP was hype.
there were
I
those
don't know
that
if that's
liked it.
true. No, ADP was it was definitely bad for the meta. I will say,
Hmm.
I played against a number of people playing Iron Hands. Iron Hands is good, but it's not gonna break the meta. I was playing Lost Zone,
Hmm.
with
So
almost
they could
all,
one shot you,
yeah, so they could like one shot everything for 2 prizes. Um,
right?
and I
So
was
so
in
so.
it. I was like, and I so I okay. So there are a few different ways to play it. There are a lot of
Hmm.
actually different ways to play it. The one obvious way is with Miraidon. It's not that good in Miraidon because it's 4 energy and that's just a lot. And Miraidon's energy acceleration is okay, but
Yeah,
it
electric
barely gets to
generators tough.
3. Um,
Or well, I mean, if you have flaffies, right? But then you're not getting it set up as quickly.
yeah,
And even with flaffies, usually have two flaffies, so not three.
yeah,
So sorry, go ahead.
and it's hard to honestly get 2 flaffies, so it's
Yes.
awkward. It's not impossible. I'd probably still play one in Miraidon deck, but it's not great. But then you can. The biggest thing I've heard, and I played against this, was people put it in Chin Pao. So this is
Right.
really interesting. As I heard some people talk about, I was talking with some people, and so obviously it lets you take an extra prize. The energy cost is weird. It's definitely payable, especially now
Hmm.
you can access the energy out of your deck with Earthen Vessel, which is the one that searches for 2 energies. And so you can play a few big types of basic lightning. You can grab them out of the deck or the discard, using superior energy retrieval, or regular energy retrieval. I think is sometimes worth running in Jin Pao. But yeah, so
Yeah.
you do this, you'd have access to that. You'd manually attach to lightning, and you just accelerate all the water. So it's not really
Hmm.
that much of a downside. But then
Right.
the question is, how good is it? So before
Hmm.
I tell you about it, I want you to tell me what are your thoughts on Iron Hands and Chin Pao, just based on hearing it.
Right. I mean, now the comparisons to the ADP. And look, the bad thing with ADP and people is ADP. I understand it, up in general, it ran 50% against most decks it played against, which means it shouldn't have been oppressive, but it meant that a lot of decks just couldn't be in the game, right? And that which is bad. I like options, right? So if Iron Hands does that, it's bad. Taking extra prizes, of course, is huge. Um, I tried an extra prize deck recently, and I had to cut the card. So extra prizes isn't always good. That was in my
What
Clefable.
was the? Oh,
That was
okay, yeah.
Clefable. with the Clefable from 151 on a single
Which is
prize,
50.
it does 50, and the 50 is not a good number to hit. I'll just say
Yeah,
that
that's
shouldn't
kind
be
of
a
bad.
shock. You kind of needed the tool to hit 60. If you hit 60, it actually would be okay, right? Because then there are a number of basics that evolve that you can take out.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I guess. Anyway,
at
so
time.
this
But
is this
anyway, that's
hits
beside
more.
the point. So but it can go into more. But 120, obviously, it's one shotting single prizes only. No, wait, the future tool that gives free retreat. Is that
It
correct?
also gives 20 more damage, which is to
Oh, 20.
140, which is it's okay, but it doesn't really help you hit any more damn numbers
Right.
for one shotting. Two shotting is fine, but if you're two shotting for an extra prize, it's
That's
probably
not
better just
generally
to
good.
one. It's not like oppressive in that sense.
No, for 4 energy. So it's a matter now. You can boost it with the Regieleki VMAX, right? It's a basic attacker.
Yeah, you can do that.
So I mean that's you're getting a lot of pieces, and that's getting very high roll probably. Um, I think it's a matter of teching into decks, honestly. I mean, yes, I probably would toss a copy in a lightning deck, have it as
Yeah.
an option. A Chen Pao, I think, putting it in again, you can either have lightning or you can have luminous to cover it. Even Charizard, which has the energy acceleration, right? You can accelerate the fire to it. So having one copy, you have to have an energy or two to work with it, but it's not a crazy notion. I don't think it's an impossible notion. So it's more of a tech card, kind of the way, partly the way Goldengo could be too, right? It's one energy plus colorless, so it gives you. And maybe you start to have these box decks too. That could box decks are fun too, and maybe that's an
Yeah.
option out there. But this is the energy. This is an energy hog, so that makes it very tough. So I think, what I'll say is Lost Zone's the deck that probably would hate this the most. And if you weren't too bothered by it, that's a sign that it's really not going to be all that good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't like Lost Zone as well. The issue is obviously that it does stop single prize decks, but those decks aren't that good right now. I guess you are if you are looking at say like Zoroark, which will be rotating quite soon, unfortunately.
Well,
But
mhm,
some of those Pokemon are out of range of 120. Some of them are like within range of 140, and the damage
right.
counts vary. But even then, they're one-shotting you, so you're trading evenly. Um, and you're not necessarily free to set up either. So yeah, I feel like before I get into the specifics of the Chim Pao, Iron Hands and Chim Pao,
Hmm.
I think people are if they're saying it's gonna like break the game, that they're wrong.
Hmm.
It's very
Yeah, let me just.
beatable.
So the concern for it with the health of the game is with stage twos have become a little more viable, right? Which is a good thing. It gives more options. And partly because even might be multi-prize stage twos with the EX, where it's a single prize that evolves to a multi-prize. So is it going to shut down the evolution EXs? I guess that's the question, right? Because if you're taking two prizes off the Pokemon that they're going to evolve into later on, that becomes a problem.
Yeah. So I feel like and I don't think it's that big of a deal because that's
Hmm.
still the same thing as if you were one-shotting the stage two, right? Which is something you could do with
Yes.
like so if you're comparing this to Chim Pao, Chim Pao
Hmm.
one-shotting the stage two versus Iron Hands one-shotting the basic for the same number of prizes.
Yeah.
It doesn't really. It's not like it's breaking the game or anything. Um,
No.
so the one thing I heard though was it obviously punishes weaker Pokemon. Um,
Yes.
so in the Chien Pao deck, someone said that it's kind of like so you know that thing like Radiant Greninja can take multiple prizes, right?
Yes.
So you but offer like two little Pokemon, allowing you to close out games by taking two prizes.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and just certain scenarios. But Iron Hands kind of does that same thing, except
Hmm.
your opponent can stop reading Greninja with Mana Feast. Then you need to get cross switch and canceling clone, which you could do, but it was awkward. But
Right.
then yeah, now you have Iron Hands to kind of cover that. Except now you're also you're not punishing. You can't do this in the early state to uh, punish them as much because you're not actually
Hmm.
damaging their engine as much. So I think it's only
Yeah.
okay. It's getting a lot of talk. Iron Hands is
Hmm.
only okay though. I think if people are saying it's insane, they're overreacting.
Yeah, look, I mean, time will tell. I think, yeah, it's not going to break the game. And maybe it is a closer Pokemon too, and maybe we're getting some more closers in the game which is which would be good, right? Like Roaring Moon, which is obviously a terrific closer, not as good early necessarily. Maybe Iron Hands is a closer. You're probably in a better position then to get the energies on board too. Either slowly building up or getting some acceleration set up. So I don't think it's the end all and be all. I will say I'm glad it's not one of the free decks because if it ends up breaking the format, giving this to everyone would not be enjoyable.
Yeah, I don't know. I get that. I feel like people are still gonna play it though, and they're just gonna be like, it's not gonna stop people from playing it. It'll stop some
That's
people though,
true.
and it'll just be a pain in their sides, because now they don't have access to it as much. But then you still have the people who just spend tons of money. Honestly, you don't. The
Yeah,
lives economy is very workable anyway, but
it is.
yeah, I guess I get the idea that you don't want everyone running around with it. But then also, I think another card we should look at. Is there another specific card you want to look at, or
Oh
not?
well, don't. Well, we just you have Iron Valiant, and then we talked about the previous card, right? The
Iron Jugulus, Iron Bundle, what?
yeah, the one that pings, right? The
Valiant EX.
Iron Valiant, right? So
Yeah.
is that a way to pair too, right? Because you need to
With
get
Iron
damage on
Hands.
with yeah, it's more piece. It's a lot of pieces, but if you can get those knockouts, those numbers, right? That's part of the manipulation you're looking for too.
Yeah, that is a thing.
And I guess actually expanded this might be a little crazy. So that's something. Just I know we're not focusing
Yeah,
on that,
I
but
think that could be good. Um, I don't think it's broken.
so
I mean, expanded. I think it might be very good in live expanded because live expanded isn't as like stupid of a format. Well, actually, that
right.
it's stupid for other
Well,
reasons.
it's very
Um,
yeah.
but it's not like
Expanded gives you more energy acceleration, and that's the big problem. And which is the right. It's good they made it for energy, right?
yeah.
I'm
I
glad
think
for
it's
that.
fine. I'm not too worried about it.
Okay, good.
I think now that we're talking about overhyped cards, I'm gonna talk about the other overhyped card, in my opinion, that's more
Mm-hmm.
overhyped than Iron Hands. Iron Hands isn't bad, but that's Jirachi. The
Mm-hmm.
one that's a counter to Sableye. Um, it says prevent its ability. It's Stellar Veil, kind of like Wave Veil. Prevent all damage counters being placed on your bench by effective attacks used by your opponent's basic Pokemon, which essentially
Right.
just counters Sableye. It also can counter Medicham V.
Well,
Um,
and there's a new Pokemon
sometimes.
coming out too, right? Which
Uh,
similar to Dragapult
Oh yeah,
VMAX.
Cofagrigus EX,
Yeah, which
which
I'd
is
like to
not
talk
on
about
the
before we're done.
on the Justin Weasel's translations. Uh or on the proxies. Yeah. So it
Okay.
counters that as wait, no, but that's not a basic, so it doesn't counter that.
Oh, is it just base? Oh, it's
Yeah.
just basics. So you played. So you were the dumb guy in the room that went in with Lost Zone deck when the new set came out that was built to counter Lost Zone.
Well,
That was you.
no one
I'm just
played the
saying, right?
Jirachi.
Everyone's saying Jirachi's printed, Lost Zone's dead, Iron Hands is here. It's going to wipe out Lost Zone, and you said, "Don't worry about it,"
And
and you went
I
ahead
think
with it.
I went like 6 for 7.
So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's early days. The decks aren't lists aren't maximized, and people are figuring out how to play these things. But so the Jirachi, look, Sableye is important, obviously, in the
Yeah,
game.
but Sableye's not by
Go
any
ahead.
means the only piece in the deck. So
Mhm.
Jirachi is good. Jirachi's okay. I think it's substantially worse than Manaphy. And Manaphy's good,
But
but
Manaphy's more more helpful in more situations.
yeah, and it's even I'd say more. It's arguably more helpful in the Lost Zone matchup, because I mean Radiant Greninja does more damage.
Right.
So you know I'd be Jirachi I wouldn't play in decks, unless you know I wouldn't really play it in deck, especially now because Iron Hands creates some of the same annoyances that Sableye does for single prize decks, and obviously
Mhm.
Jirachi doesn't do anything against Iron Hands, so I don't think it's particularly good. I don't think it's garbage, but I don't think it's that good.
Yeah. What? Oh, the big negative to me is because it's a to go up against Lost Zone, but you really need, as you said, the Manaphy down and the Jirachi down,
Yeah,
and generally you don't want to give up two deck spaces. There's not many. There's some decks that can leave two to give up two spaces,
you
but
mean bench
most
spaces
decks
or
bench
decks?
spaces. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, yeah, bench spaces. So that's that's a big negative to me. The one thing with the Jirachi, maybe in decks, is you play it in a deck with Manaphy. You'd get the Manaphy down early. You don't put the Jirachi on the bench till later when it matters, right? Because they're not going to get 10 in the loss zone usually for a few turns. So perhaps you have it and you got to be smart and wait on it. But I think it's iffy, and it's not the I don't think it is the death of the lost zone.
Yeah, especially because they can
That's
just boss up one of them, or even rope, right? Like if they rope,
yeah.
you're just going to be sitting there like, well, I can't give up the Manaphy or the Jirachi, and I don't really want to give up whatever else I have, so it's not good. And then because they obviously play rope, and then you probably end
Yeah.
up losing Jirachi or Manaphy, and once you lose one of them, they'll snipe the other one, and they'll go back in with the thing they could have gone in with before, and now you're
Hmm.
just kind of you slowed them down a tiny bit, but only a tiny bit.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to have a big impact in general. I think at high level IRL competitions, it will impact Lost Zone because it's a matter of being very careful with the Jirachi play and all.
Maybe
And
I don't think it's, but I don't know. I don't think it's. What do you mean? Just like being careful?
you got to not bench it till the right time. You have to keep your access to it either for something like a Clara to pull it out of the discard pile, or just to keep the cards to draw and know that you just know in your mind at the next turn or two more turns now I got to play the Jirachi and stuff. And most people aren't that careful, right?
I feel like you. I feel like that's kind of risky though because you're not always going to have access to it, and then I mean, it's still like taking up. You still need to save that bench spot. You can't like fill that bench spot. So even if it's not in play, it's still kind of like taking that bench spot. So I feel like you can maybe wait like one more turn, but
Mm-hmm.
um, even then it's like super sketchy. Um,
Yeah.
because if you fill it up, your opponent can, like if you fill up your bench, your opponent can not KO your Pokemon and then Sableye your
Mm-hmm.
Manaphy, and
Yeah.
then you only have one bench spot open, and you still never like solve the problem.
Yeah. No, I would look. Yes. Yeah. I would look. I don't think it's the end of the world for Lost Zone. So, I'm more concerned about the iron hands becoming a problem than Jirachi being a big problem. I would say at the end of the day.
Yeah. Um, so, and are there any other cards you want to talk about specifically right now? I have a few more I could talk about. Um,
I have at least a trainer.
oh yeah, there's a
I
few trainers we have to talk about.
but at Pokemon, there's two just briefly. That there's the Kofaga, whatever the
Puffagrigus.
yes, thank you. I Kaffa Grigas EX. I just want it's a stage one. It's like the Dragapult, right? It's hollow hands for two psychic, does 110 damage. So it's doing well, Dragapult didn't do a ton of damage either. I
No,
don't
it did, I
did
believe, 130 and then 50 to
it,
the bench. Does this do 50 to the bench as well?
you put 5 damage counters on your
Yeah.
opponent's bench
Okay.
Pokemon any way you'd like. So not to the active, but spreading damage, putting damage counters is obviously very good. Man, if he doesn't stop it. Um and so it I think Dragapult was dangerous. You like Dragapult a lot. So that's partly why
Yeah,
I
I
see your
talk it up. I didn't play it that much.
you,
Played
you
it some.
talk the talk, but you didn't walk the walk. And then
Yeah,
it
I mean,
has the
I didn't
ability,
play that much when it was really good.
but it also has this ability, right, that makes it very intriguing. And I would think this will appeal to you, and the ability appeals to me as well. Gold Coffin. If this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, search your deck for a card and put it into your hand. So that's searching for a card is good, and obviously at this point you're not going to get hand disrupted because you were knocked out. They've attacked. So yes, you're going to have two prizes, but hopefully through its attack you're making progress, and now you've set up your next turn. So
Yeah, one thing I want to say, obviously, it's like Dragapult. Dragapult really liked, later on, especially to make it good again, it really liked Path. And
mhm.
playing Path doesn't feel good with this deck,
Correct. You don't
because
want
you
to
turn off
path.
your
Yes.
ability. So I don't know about that. Um, yeah, and then, oh, there's another Psychic Stage 1, though, I want to talk about, because I'm assuming you don't have too much more to say about Kafagrugus.
No.
Um,
No.
is Pathra, which is down a few cards, I think. Which is another Psychic Stage 1 with an ability. First of all, it's attack here for Glitter Eyes. Um, 70, but 140 if you have Tulip in your discard pile. It's the supporter we were
How do
talking
you
about.
spell it, by the way?
ESPATHRA.
Oh, E. Okay.
Um, so
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, it does 140 essentially for 2 psychic. But it has an ability called Stance, which is when you evolve it, when you like play it down to evolve it, you can be immune to damage and effects of attacks done to it next turn.
Hmm.
And you can loop it with the supporter card, Professor Toru's Scenario, and then you can accelerate to it with a number of things. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to accelerate to it. One is Zadu, which we'll talk about, but
Hmm.
it's invincible and you can loop it. Not for, like you can loop it for a while, certainly.
Okay. Well, this can tie into my next card. I have one last Pokemon to talk about, which actually this could be the solution to that one too. So, certainly the ability. This is the type of thing you've liked. It's invincible, right? This is why you're playing Thornton because it was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah,
But
it was good. It was good for one set, and then Lugia came out, and you didn't have to do a 10 card combo. Well, you actually kind of did, but like it was an easier combo, with more payoff.
right, you have to evolve. You need two energies. You need the tulip in the discard, but you don't have to play it, and you only need one in the discard. It's not like it stacks or anything. So 140, you just have to get a tulip in the discard. That's not too bad. So it's not bad. It's certainly interesting. It's a single prize attacker, which obviously the multi prizes get a lot of the attention. So it is It's intriguing, is what I'll say.
Hmm. Is your next
Is
Pokemon Zadu, or is it not?
No, it's
Okay.
Golisopod.
Can we talk about Zadu first here?
Sure.
Okay, Zadu. Its ability. It's
Wait, how do you
once
spell that one?
XATU.
That's XA. Okay.
Yeah. So once in your turn, you
Thank
can
you.
attach a basic Psychic from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon. If you do, draw 2 cards. So it's like Shadow Rider, but can be to non-Psychic
Mhm.
Pokemon, including this new Terra Mewtwo EX, which is a new card. It's all right. I think it's a little overhyped. It's not particularly good, but it is a partner as well. There's like a Deoxys. There's a number of partners, but pretty much it's Shadow Rider, but it doesn't have to be to Psychics. It's a single
Mhm.
prizer, and it can accelerate to Respathra. Um, or as Iron Valiant, you can accelerate to a number of things. Do you think this card will be good? Because obviously Shadow Rider kind of flopped, but Shadow Rider is different as an attacker. It's a little weak in its damage output as well.
Right. So it's Shadow Rider's ability, obviously not the attack, nowhere near it, but Shadow Rider was three prizes. This is a single prizer. So, um, it's an interesting question. How good would it be? Because obviously we have Gardevoir EX, which is tremendous psychic energy acceleration. And it's not, it's different, but it's not as good as that, I would think, I would say. It's interesting. I'm not sure. I'm, I don't know. It doesn't grab me as a deck idea, but that might just be my lack of imagination.
Yeah. But anyway, so you
So
want
you think it'll be good?
I think it could be. I think it inherently is a good card. I think Shadow Rider's ability was very good, but then if you try to play Shadow Rider later on, obviously you'd
Hmm.
probably attack with Shadow Rider,
Yes.
but you don't hit quite enough, and then you can get like one-shotted, and then you give up 3 prize and you fall behind badly. So I think Zadu has potential. Um, I'm not exactly sure in what, but I think inherently it is a strong
Hmm.
card. You could pair it with Iron Valiant, which could be alright. You could pair it with Espathra. Um, it's kind of like
Right.
those like toolbox style decks with
Hmm.
stuff like Electric or Flaffy, which have been good at times. But and like you got right on box. You could have Zadu kind of like that. Although they're not, obviously not
Yeah.
really like they're not the same, but they're similar ideas. So I think Zadu has potential, and there have been a lot of Psychic Pokemon or Colorless Pokemon as well. So you could use this as
Hmm.
colorless cards.
Right. The idea of making with box style decks is always appealing, and maybe we see the rise of Shadow Rider, right?
Yeah, I have a
Oh no,
card
that
like Shadow.
rotated. Sorry.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
that's right.
it
That
wouldn't
just
really make
rotated.
sense to pair this with Shadow Rider, because you'd
No,
still
probably
attack with
not. You
Shadow
just
Rider,
need
and
so
you
much.
have the same
You need
ability as.
Right. You need like 20 energies in hand to start your turn to make it work. So,
Yeah,
all right. So, well, yeah, we'll see. So, Glisopod EX. I saw this one, and this one I want to make work, and because I love hit and run. Okay, and hit and
I
run
feel like
just
you need to play. You haven't played that Hitmonlee deck though, right? The
no.
Ting, it's hit and run ability lock.
Well,
It's right up your alley.
yeah. I mean, maybe.
It's
But
hit and
what
run,
about this
ability
one?
lock, spread. It's all this stuff.
All the things I love. I do like those things. So Gliscopod EX, stage one. And then it's a second attack for watercolors, colorless, swing, and skedaddle. So that whoever was naming things was really
Wait,
on
is that
fire.
the official name?
Well, this is the translation, so
Wait,
maybe
so are
that's
you on
wrong.
Justin? I have a different translation.
I'm on Justin Basil.
I'm
What
also
do
on
you
Justin
have?
Basil's, and it's translated first
First what?
rank, first rank withdrawal.
Well, that's a weird one too. Okay. I don't know. Swing and skedaddle's a little more memey. Yours sounds like an awkward translation to me, but I don't know what it.
Yeah, we've certainly seen awkward translations though, some of which are funny.
Yeah. So I don't know what it'll be. Yours is from the proxy page, I guess.
Yeah, I mentioned the proxy page.
Okay. So 170 damage. The attack, I assume, is correct. So that's an okay. Well, no, it's not a great
For hit
number.
and
Let's
run,
be
that's a
fair.
good number. It's
Correct.
like a
Hit and
very
run.
reasonable number.
So yeah, it's better than a lot of hit and runners. And you discard an energy. If you do, and you don't have a choice but discard an energy, I think, right? So I don't know why they phrase things like this. Discard an energy for this
Yeah.
Pokemon. If you do, which one? They have other cards like that.
I think
I
you could
never
like
understand it.
copy it somehow, or you could have some weird scenario where maybe your energy gets discarded first, like if you hit into some
Oh,
Pokemon with some tool, maybe. I don't really
like
know.
it would have to be like Pokemon that has like multiple tools. It can have like four tools, and
Yeah,
then it discards all your energy. All right. So
yeah,
anyway, if you discard an energy and then you switch with one of your bench Pokemon, so it doesn't go out of play. It goes to your benches, down one energy, which means if you have the ability to promote it again next turn, you can obviously just manually attach one. So now I was trying to figure out to pair it. Now you've just told me the Pokemon that's immune, right? Which is always very nice to swing into.
yeah. I realize I have a ruling question now as well after
Uh
this. Should I ask
Okay.
that? Yeah, I'll ask that question now actually. Um,
Okay.
and that is, um, you got the Iron Valiant EX. It says, once in your turn, when this Pokemon moves from the bench to the active, you put two damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So is this during your
Mm-hmm.
turn? So like, um, when you send Gliscod to the, it's like because you can send up the Iron Valiant, right? Um,
Oh, Iron Valiant. Oh, is that during your turn if you
yeah, and I
sent up?
think it is.
I think your turn's after, but that's an interesting
Uh,
question.
it's kind of weird. So I mean, it's not that good.
You're putting
It's
two damage counters. I mean, you're
yeah,
doing what 170, so it gets you to 190, which there are
yeah.
some 180 Pokemon out there,
Yeah, the issue
but
is you're sending up a Pokemon with less HP, which is kind of like the op
right.
with that gives us the same number of prizes, which is kind of like the opposite idea of hit and run. Normally, you want to send up like say, I don't know, like Mimikyu or some like wall.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So you probably don't send that one up, but it's an interesting question, and someone will ask that question, I'm sure. My thought initially is no, though. That's not part of your turn, right? Is it a I don't know. That's a good question. Because
Yeah,
when you attack, your turn ends, right? So I don't know.
yeah. I think it is part of your turn. I think it's during like the attack,
I
but
mean,
it doesn't
it's
matter too much. I don't think it's that good.
no. So I like the switch. I like the hit and run aspect. So I think maybe something can be done with the Gliscopod EX. Though is what I'll say.
Maybe hit and run has not been good for a while. We've seen like some hit and run
Yeah.
things, but nothing like that good for a long time.
No, I
Um,
agree. I mean, even when Galarian Wheezing that gave ability lock, hit and run was sketchy with that even, right? And that was a great Pokemon to swing into.
yeah, I think they remember there's a hit and run deck where you'd like item lock your opponent and like ability lock
Hmm.
them, but it was like so
Yeah,
awkward. Like they've made some with really high upsides. They're just like so impossible to pull off. Also, you have to kind of compare this, I feel like, to the Alakazam EX, which attacks from the bench, hits less, but you don't
right.
need to like switch every turn. So
Right. Now you could pair it with those, right? That was with the Spiritomb and the
no,
you know
like
no, not that, but the
Mimikyu.
lock ones, Mimikyu
Oh, and
and the one
Klefki.
that and Klefki, yeah. Those sorry. So yeah, so I don't know. This is a Pokemon I'm going to try to make something happen with, but you don't want to talk about this anymore. Are
I
we
don't
done with
think it's
Pokemon now?
that good. Yeah.
Or if they
Oh,
have something
there's
else,
one.
that's
There's a
fine.
few more. There's let's see, how much time do we have left? No,
I
yeah,
think
let's
we
be done
should.
with Pokemon.
Okay. I mean, there's a couple I don't have a lot of trainers.
I have a few that we have to talk about.
Okay. That's fine. So, Bombardier EX is interesting too. Just take a look at that at your own.
That one's hit and
It
run, and it's set
no,
up,
well, it is. It is.
but
You can
it's not
attack.
like
It's an attack. You can. It's a Pokemon you can attack with going first turn one. So that's
yeah,
always a good
that's
thing. I
fine.
like those. I like those cards too.
I feel like
They're
I
not
don't
as
like him though
good.
because turn one going first, you want to go first anyways. I have some cards that you want to use going second though, which I think are interesting.
Okay, so let's get to the trainers then, right? This is. I assume you don't have any special energies.
No, there's
There's only
like
one in the set, right?
yeah, it's all right. It's like potion.
Yeah,
It's
but
okay.
there's some very good trainers,
Yeah.
right?
So we talked about Earthen Vessel. We talked about which one do you want to talk about?
Well, counter catcher we have to talk about.
Yeah.
Should we do that then?
Yeah. So County Catcher, is this the only one you have to talk about?
I have at least one other,
Okay,
but
let's Counter Catcher though. If you're down, pretty much anything that's like counter or like defiance or
mhm,
something. It's if you're down, you can do something. In this case, just it's an item gust. So it's like
yeah,
old school Pokemon count. No, what old school Pokemon Catcher. But Counter Catcher is a
yes,
reprint as well, so it's really
right,
nice. Especially for me, a control player, it's going to be very good.
hmm
Um,
yes,
yeah. So I've not messed around with that too much, but I think it'll be very good. And I'm looking forward to that. Someone also commented on my video that I need to do the Tatsugira control deck. I will. I have not built that yet, but there's like a
okay.
setup Pokemon, so there's some cool things there.
hmm Look, I like counter catcher, and this is an actual reprint of an older card, right? So if you have the older copies, I think the text is probably even the same, but you can certainly play those. I am concerned because Snorlax Stall is a decent deck right now, and I play Snorlax Stall. I don't hate Stall, but I don't want to see Stall half the decks on the ladder, right? I don't think anybody does.
Yeah.
And this really, really, really helps Snorlax Stall a lot, I think. I think
Um,
Snorlax Stall could really be too good.
I think it helps
I'm
it.
I'm more concerned about that than Iron Hands, honestly. This is because I really do think Snorlax Stall could become a top five deck with
I
this.
feel like a lot of decks don't have too many Pokemon though that they can attack with. So you need to look at like
hmm
the classic example is like Gardevoir, right? So Gardevoir, obviously, they can attack with all the things in the Gardevoir line,
Right.
which are just like a bunch of Gardevoirs and Gallades. And then they can obviously attack with Cresselia. Um,
hmm
but then you look at Radiant Greninja, Manaphy, Lumineon, they probably play some combination of those. And they can't attack with any of them, and they can't switch them out
hmm
really at all. So
Right.
their idea is to not play them, but you could hit them
Right.
off of both Erica's Invitation slash Manaphy.
hmm
Erica's Invitation is probably better. Or you could hit it with Echoing Horn if they discard it.
Right.
But then you also look at Mew, Baby Mew, as well as Pokemon like that, which
hmm
do can attack only for 30, and 30 is not enough to break through. Well, I guess Defiance Fest. Defiance Fest is a new card which reduces damage by 40. Um, and so
so it's doing nothing then, yeah.
yeah, so the yeah normally you'd play Pot Helmet which reduces by 30 as well, which is enough. But Defiance Fest
hmm
is an upgrade um, when you're down, which is most of the game.
Right. So look, I'm glad counter catcher's out. I'm a little concerned because Snorlax Stall is a thing. It's very easy to play. Like it's not hard to play against, like you said. Just don't bench the dumb Pokemon. But but you can get those cards into play with the attacks. There's more ways. Eventually, you can get cards into play at this point because if you can get it from the discard or their hand, eventually the Pokemon end up in one of those two spots, and you can fall behind
Yeah,
the
the idea
prizes
is that you want to fill your bench up, but that's a little
with the
awkward.
cards you want. But even if you fill your whole bench up with attackers, if I keep switching every turn, even a Gardevoir deck can't get enough energy on every Pokemon to attack with every Pokemon.
That is true, but you want to keep in mind that you're not gusting every turn, even with
No,
the
but if
counter
I have
catcher,
four counter catchers, which is much better, assuming you get behind, than the one you play two of, which I'm blanking on.
cross switcher.
Cross switcher, right? It's
Yeah,
better
but I
than that
think
if
you're
you're
still not
behind.
hitting it every
So I
turn.
don't know. Look, I'm a little concerned. And the other thing, just to keep in mind, if you play Pokestop, there are Pokestop decks out there. This goes in that at least one copy, even if you're not going to be behind a lot, because it's very good. And there are Pokestop decks as well as there's the Chen Pao Blastoise Pokestop deck that's pretty good that I played recently. And that plays for cross switchers. Maybe just I don't know if you drop the cross switchers just for this or something, but
Wait,
you know,
Blastoise, not Excalibur.
Bex, yeah,
Okay,
Chen Pao Blastoise. My apologies. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. And then what was
All
the
right.
other
So,
card you had?
Mela.
Okay. I think
Just
the
is it
card's
any
bad.
good?
I think it's
Okay. Just
not.
this
We've talked about
briefly.
it before, and we determined it wasn't good.
So
I thought.
it only works for fire. If you had a fire deck, is it better than Raihan? You think it's worse than Raihan even,
I
right?
don't know.
You
I think
draw till
it's
6 cards in
yeah,
hand. So maybe you put a copy in a fire deck
yeah. I don't despise it. I just don't think fire is
or
that good.
Charizard EX deck, which
Um,
obviously there's a lot of.
yeah, but Charizard DX, I'd rather play Raihan and Charizard DX,
Okay.
because this kind of you want to be able to search out exactly what you want, and you have cards to do that. But your deck's kind of designed in that way. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, I think we need to talk about if you saw
Want to
my
hit the
top,
tools?
yeah, if you saw my top 10 trainers, 6 of them were tools.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh wait, just before you do that, Snorlax Doll, it's garbage. Is that correct?
it's not
I
garbage.
mean, I
There are
love Lewis
some.
Poké Doll, but I
It allows you to control your mulligans, uh, which
a
is
little
kind of
bit,
good.
yes.
So my idea is if you play Force Knockstall for Luxray, you can control mulligans decently well.
Hmm.
Um, that's just my idea though. I don't know if it's any good. It's probably not. I think it's complicated, but I don't think it's an unplayable card. Um,
Right.
it's
I mean, the fact.
interesting. You can give it
Go ahead.
220 HP with Gorgeous Mantle, which is good.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the fact it
it's kind
has
of
to be in your starting hand. It can't even be played turn one like a Battle VIP Pass turn one play. It has to be your starter, right? That makes it pretty
yeah. Well, it
pretty
doesn't need to be your
niche.
starter. It needs to be in your starting hand. You can
Oh,
play
you
it as
can
a
put it on.
bench.
You can put it on the bench too. I
Yeah,
apologize. Yeah, it
versus
has to
like
be
Luxray, you
setting your
have to
draw.
put as the active.
Okay. All right. Okay. So anyway, get to the tools.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so
I
the tools, the
distracted.
TMs, we got 4 of them. Blindside is not good. It's a spread attack. It's not garbage, but it's not great. But you got 3
Yeah.
other ones, which are so the way the TMs work, their tools can be attached to any Pokemon.
Yeah.
They can use that attack, and then after that turn, it's discarded. So you can only use it once. But they're all good.
Hmm.
These 3 are all, or they're all decent at least, and they're all one
Hmm.
colorless. So I'll
Yeah,
read the
that's
3,
important.
yeah, real quick. Devolution, devolve all of your opponent's Pokemon by putting the highest stage evolution into their hand.
Hmm.
Next one, evolution. Choose 2 of your bench Pokemon for each of those. Search for an evolution, put it onto them. It cannot be your active. And then
Hmm.
uh, turbo energize. Search for up to 2 basic energy and attach them to your bench Pokemon in any way you like. Then shuffle your deck.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on these?
Well, don't forget that Pokemon, which I've forgotten the name of already, that's immune the turn you evolve it. You put this on that, boom, you attack, it doesn't get knocked out. Anyway,
Um, wait, what?
right? There's the one
Which
that evolves, right? Isn't the turn it
you get?
evolves?
No,
It's a
no, the Espathra, but
you could
um,
use the tool on that Pokemon. I'm just saying, right?
the which tool?
Any of these
Wait,
tools.
so
But the
oh, and then
Pokemon's immune the turn it evolves. You could evolve that Pokemon this turn,
oh,
that
it's
turn,
I think
and
Espathra
use
only
any of these
works
tools.
when you play it from your hand.
No,
Oh, you're
no,
saying, oh, you
no.
just evolve and
Make
then you
that's the
attack for.
active. That's your
Oh, yeah.
attacker.
Well, you can
But
use it
rather you
with
use the
Mimikyu V
tool.
as well. Mimikyu V is also invincible at the turn you play, and it's a basic.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'd
Okay,
probably
so but
rather use like something else. Like you could use
that's
Baby
true.
Mimikyu as well. I get what you're saying. I
Yes.
would not use Espathra.
Okay, so devolving every. I thought it only devolved the active. So
No, it
devolving every
devolves all of them.
Pokemon, so it's gonna force these rare candy decks to play more stage ones because right now Charizard,
Plays one.
Pidgeot deck, or sometimes none,
Yeah, I think
right? Maybe
usually
one at most,
one.
and none for the Pidgeot line. So you devolve everything. They've kind of lost the game, and obviously backs Caliber. So people are going to have to put more stage ones in. So it's going to hurt evolution decks, I think, because you're going to have to
Yeah,
be
I
prepared for this.
guess. I think my idea is like you devolve these stage twos into stage ones or basics that have
Hmm.
100 or less HP, so you like spread a bunch of damage around. Um, and
If
then
you've already done the attacks, then you finish. Then they get knocked out when
yeah,
you've
so this will
devolved.
allow you to KO a Charizard EX in a deck that can't hit 300 damage, in a deck that only hits like 100 damage. It will take 2 turns, and you only take 1 prize, but
Hmm.
that you do hopefully 100 to a few of their Pokemon, then devolve them, and then you're good to go.
It's a lot of work, though. You have to set up the spread, and setting up spread's not. super easy, right? That I'm
Uh,
a little concerned about
yeah, I
that.
think it's easier than like three-shotting a Charizard EX. Um, now
But
you're
you can,
two-shot. Like
but
you set up three Charizards with three attacks, then you devolve all of
mhm.
them with the fourth attack. So you take three prizes across 4 turns as opposed to like six prizes
uh,
across 9 turns.
by the time you take any turns, you've lost to
Well, no, it's
Charizard.
only 4 turns. Well, but you're a single prize deck. I think it's well, but then the idea is you can
Maybe
make things up in
look, you
actually no,
might
it's
be
probably
right.
going to be less. It's probably going to be like 2 turns to take two prizes. And you are carrying all their Pokemon, so they have no more like they're not doing anything the next turn either.
You might be right. I also don't think this is a tech you could put in a lot of decks. You can splash one of in any deck you want. It's one colorless, and there are a bunch of decks that are really going to be unhappy to see it. So that
Yeah,
I think it will get that used to.
yeah.
Um, bench Pokemon, you evolve to bench Pokemon. I don't love it. I mean, it's your attack for a turn, right? I gotta say. So it's a setup. I'm not thrilled about that
I
one.
think
I
it's
gotta say.
okay turn one going second. Same thing with the Energy Acceleration one. They're both decent turn one going second. I was playing against the Goldengo player I was playing against
Hmm.
played not the energy the evolution one.
Yes.
But then obviously you go second, but then you give your opponent your Goldengos to KO. So now and a
Hmm.
lot of decks can KO turn one or no turn two going first can one shot anything. Um,
Hmm.
and so they're
Oh,
gonna
and
KO your Goldengos. But I think it has use.
it does.
And it kind of
And I
counters the
know
devolution one. So you don't need to
what's
play
that?
as yeah, it counters the devolution one, and you don't need to play as many rare candies.
Right. Well, but it doesn't count. But you still right. You have to play the stage ones though instead of the rare candies.
Yeah, so you're taking up more spots. Yeah, you're
Or the
taking up.
same. It's a matter of consistency. Which way is better?
Um, yeah,
It gives you flexibility. I don't. The deck I now see it in is Mew, and Mew needs more pieces. So you go second, Mew, boom, because I think DTE Mew is actually pretty good and is
I
going to
think
stay
it's
good.
all right.
And this is a nice setup for that. This is might be the optimal end of your first turn going second Mew.
That could
I,
be.
so
Um,
anyway,
I don't know.
we don't want to talk. You don't want to think about Mew, do you?
No, not really. I think it's okay.
And then
I'm
this
not a big Mew fan. I think that I think versatile decks are better than not versatile decks, but they're also hard to
yeah.
play. So
Hmm.
because I'm so good, I just don't play Mew. No, I think
Yeah.
it's Mew's like a decently straightforward deck.
Hmm.
And so obviously this gives you a bit more. Well, actually, it doesn't really give you
It,
flexibility. It just gives you power. But I don't think it's
yeah. Oh, and it's not an item card. That actually makes it less good of Mew, right? You
well.
always want
That's
cards you can
interesting
chuck with
because
Crayomatic.
you can search with Arven though. So I think these make Arven better. I think Arven is going
Oh
to
yeah,
become very
Arvin's.
good in this new set because previously the
Yes.
tool aspect was the weaker aspect of the two.
Hmm.
Except for when you could grab Forest Sealstone.
Right. And
And
the
it
ancient and
used
future tools are good too.
yeah. So there's a lot of good tools from the set, and I think Arven's going to be very good.
Future Flash is okay. You can manually evolve that same. Well, I guess no. You can. Yeah, you can evolve it the turn you played it down with this, but you're using up your attack, so
Wait, what?
it's
What
situate
future Flash?
Future Flash, right? You can evolve the turn. It can be the turn you played the card Pokemon down, right? You can play the basic and then you attack and evolve it to the stage one that very turn. Correct?
Which the TM?
Yeah, the TM evolution. Yeah,
Yeah. Wait, why do you
with
say future Flash?
I don't know because
Okay,
I
that's the
said it
name of the
wrong.
set. Or that's the name of the Japanese set, which
Oh,
is
from Future Flash. Oh,
yeah.
I see.
Okay.
Future Flash versus. That's what I got confused about. Okay,
So I
so
was like, where do you get that from? Okay.
you can
Yes.
evolve at the turn, so
Yeah.
it has some value.
Yeah. But then you'd be ending your turn, so normally you could just evolve it next turn and be fine.
Right. But unless you're evolving a Pidgeot, you probably can't evolve two Pokemon with rare candies the next turn. So it's better for stage two decks, I think, which you are getting at before, probably.
Yeah.
Or
It's all right. It allows for um some more options or some more consistency or some different things,
mhm.
which could be all right.
And obviously, accelerating energy with the Turbo Energize is good. You accelerate what, two energies
Yeah. Oh
to
wait,
what, one
sorry.
of your
So
benched?
so for the evolution one, that's gonna be good in guard for. I realize that'll be the deck it's
Mhm.
best in because you have like the stage ones and the stage twos and the basics.
Yeah, that's yeah. So you get two Corellias up, At that, right, because you're not doing anything a meaningful attack turn one anyway. You might end with the Zacian V's ability, or you use this attack.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this Turbo Energize is fine. Accelerate two energy to one Pokemon, right? Or no, to any way you'd like. So they can go to one or to two. It's good. It's using up your attack, so it'll have some use. It's not the greatest thing in
Yeah, I don't think it
Slice
feels.
Spread though.
I think it works decently for most decks. Turn one going
Hmm.
second. Um, it's
Yeah.
kind of like Arceus V's attack. It's not as strong, but it's only one energy, so I think
Hmm.
it's usable and allows you to get a bit more
Yep.
like
Okay.
oomph and stuff.
Yep. Okay. So the de-evolution is the or de-evolution's the strongest of those four, I think.
I think
I
I
personally.
don't know. I think it's weaker than the evolution and the turbo energize.
Well, okay. I
I
mean,
think
it depends.
it can
Depends
be
how you
it
play
can
them.
do like big things,
Hmm.
um, but it's not as like you're not gonna use it every game.
No, I
It's
think it's
very
more
different.
universal. The others are more are niche, right?
Um, well, you can play it in any deck, but it's a counter. So, it's kind of
Exactly.
like
It's a
how Manaphy
counter.
is like
That's
more universal, but it's not necessarily like good in every game that you play. It's only good in maybe like 20% of the matches you play it in. Although
yes.
this one might be useful in more. We'll see.
Right, depending on the meta, obviously. So, yeah. Okay. But
Uh,
look, they're good tools. Arbin becomes important for sure. Any other trainers you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I think the conclusion we've come to is that the meta is not like ruined, but
No.
there are some very good cards.
Yeah, there's gonna be new decks, new options, and don't forget Luminous Cape. Everybody's got to play for those, right? That's a bizarre one.
Yeah,
We
it's
have
called
we're out of
Gorgeous
time.
Mantle here, I
Is
think.
it? Okay, on the proxy. So, at giving up an extra prize is a very unusual thing for a card, but and it's going to add some options. It's got some decks as well as some options, tech and decks, and I think that's good for the game.
Yeah, Gorgeous Mantle or what Luminous Cave, that's the ADP clone. Because
That's the hidden
now
treasure
all the
here.
single prizes give up multi prizes. It's ruining the game.
Every single prize player is going to have to attach luxurious cape to every Pokemon, and then they lose that much faster. Yes.
Yeah, this is Pokemon's ruining the game here.
So, anyway, it's a nice set. It's coming out soon, and yeah, and based on your experience, you can still play Lost Zone.
Yeah, you can still play Lost Zone. Lost Zone is even better. Um, so hopefully that's good news for you all. It probably isn't, but oh, stay tuned. I don't know if it's this week. It might be this week. It might be next week. We're going to be releasing a half episode. We might not. It's something we haven't actually recorded yet, but I think we're going to record that. And so stay tuned for that. It's a bit more of like a silly casual thing, unlike the very professional episode we've just recorded for you. So
Yes,
yeah, subscribe, hit the bell. Check us out on podcasting
but
platforms like
right,
Spotify, or the YouTube channel as well. Either our YouTube
right,
channels are a great way to contact us. If you want to
yep,
contact one of us in particular, comment on that person's channel. But yeah, and we're
yep.
excited to see you next time.
All right, take care.